Hi, thank you for taking the time to join us today. At this point, I'm assuming you're a nonprofit leader that really sees an opportunity to improve your board and your organization through board leadership training. Board training can be a critical component to maximizing your nonprofit's potential. Even the most functional of boards still have opportunities for growth and improvement. I'm guessing that even as we talk through this, 2 to 3 things instantly come to mind that you wish you were seeing more from your board. And what we're going to talk through today is what that process should look like for bringing those opportunities from your vision to your reality. In our experience, we've seen a number of issues residing at the board level. Some of the more common ones we've seen is an unengaged board where they just don't want to participate. They don't want to be a part of it. Oftentimes, this comes from board members who have perhaps been on a board for too long. We've seen a board that's too engaged. This often happens when we have a board of directors that has shifted from an operating entity into a governing board, and they haven't quite made that personal transition when the organization has. We've seen board members that don't want to fundraise, or boards as a whole that don't want to fundraise. And so you need to be putting them into a position that they feel comfortable to open those doors that can make your organization more successful. We've seen boards that haven't met with each other in years because we've shifted everything to Zoom meetings. And that's a true loss of that connection for your board and your community. It's also a true loss in really getting a better understanding of who your board members are. Sometimes these issues are a result of the wrong board, and sometimes, and most times, this is really just an opportunity to educate, to improve the board that you do have, to make it more impactful in the future. During our time at NMBL, we've had the good fortune of working with the Golden Lotus Foundation. The Golden Lotus Foundation is located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and is focused on Asian heritage and bringing and sharing that message of Asian heritage with the greater Colorado community. We were initially engaged in a feasibility study that we were performing to build an Asian Heritage Center in Colorado Springs. In doing so, we interviewed the board as well as the community to understand what their thoughts and opinions are of the organization, as well as what their thoughts and opinions are of the project. And one of the things that we heard pretty consistently was that it was a very disconnected board. It's not that anyone didn't care, it's not that anyone didn't want to participate, but they each had an individual vision for who the Golden Lotus Foundation was and what their mission was and what they were trying to do with the Asian Heritage Center. So what we were engaged to do next then was to perform a board training in which we really focused on Board 101, which was really just the basics of what a board should be doing, needing to teach them the functional aspects so that they were in alignment of what the functional aspects of the board of directors was. Then we took them through mission focus, so making sure that they were in agreement of what the mission of the organization was, and ultimately then their personal focus, so that they understood individually what their role was within that mission to make sure that they were putting the organization into a successful place. No matter the issue, there is a process that can and should be followed. Preparation. When you're looking at board training, preparation is critical. You need to look at the organizational background, the issues, the opportunities, and the needs to make sure that you're pulling the people in for this board training and giving them an outcome that they feel is valuable to the organization. Training, general responsibilities of a board. So in the Asian Heritage Center, I referenced that we really did Board 101 across the whole, but sometimes your organization maybe is a really well-established board and really has that good understanding and alignment. Maybe your needs are more specific. Maybe it's fundraising 101, maybe it's fundraising 202. You know, your organization has your own needs, and you need to make sure that they understand what the general responsibilities are to fulfill those needs. Organizational needs then come next. What and why the organization needs the board to focus on. So if they don't understand what and why they're focusing on something, then it's really hard for them to individually understand how they can play a role in that. And that ultimately leads to the final step in that training process, individual tasks. what each board member needs to do to move this organization forward. They should walk away from this training knowing what their individual role is, and they should have played a part in assigning their individual role, because ultimately you want their buy-in to what you need from them. So start with your general education, move into your organizational level, and then end it with the individual. And so you're really taking it down step by step to make sure that everyone aligns as they move down towards their own individual aspects within the organization. It's not time to walk away at this point. You still have to close this out. A summary report should be put together with key takeaways for the organization. Really, you need to have that. Here's what we discussed. Here's what we learned. Here's why this was important. And what are we going to do with that information? And every board member should walk away with a binder that includes that general education piece. It includes organizational worksheets that were worked on during that session, personal plans, and ultimately we find a lot of times relevant articles are a helpful piece in there as well. If we provide those relevant articles, then when there's further question and further engagement, there's somewhere for them to go to find information. We hope this really sums up that process really well for you. It hopefully shows you how we aligned it to the Golden Lotus Foundation, but also how it can apply to yourselves.